Yay, I'm so excited to have you here with me, Shannon, to on the Creating Consciousness podcast. And she's actually physically, for those of you guys that are watching the video, here in my condo in Henderson, Nevada. And you guys are going to love this episode. We're going to just dive right in it. So thank you for coming to be on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to share anything I can do to help people grow or
Yeah, so my audience absolutely loves talking about relationships. It's interesting that it's a spiritual awakening, but the spiritual awakening and relationships go hand in hand. Would you agree?
100%. But you don't know it till you go through it, I guess. That's what I've learned. I went through a huge spiritual awakening maybe a year and a half ago, and everything about it has changed how I perceive dating, valuing myself, my self-worth, just choosing what better, I guess. Like
For yourself.
overall, yeah.
Right.
With life decisions, dating.
What do you think was a triggering point where you realized that your previous relationships weren't in alignment?
When I guess when I would have them reach out, they would reach out and I would just be like, get a terrible stomach ache and just be like, why do I feel like this? I had to kind of check myself. I'm like, what is going on? Like, I used to get so happy when I hear from these people. And I think that that different leveling up, you're just not connecting energetically anymore. And so I just would just ignore them. And it just started shifting to where I started attracting people that were a little bit like were better for me in a vibrational sense and just making me want to do better in life instead of dragging me down. Because it was such a negative feeling after a while. It wasn't like I felt good anymore.
So do you think in the past, when those people were around you, where do you think you were coming from in the relationship where you thought it was, I guess, healthier, or you felt maybe fulfilled, or what were you seeking in that relationship prior to your awakening?
Definitely validation. And I was a people pleaser from my childhood. And I found I was doing that in those relationships. And of course they like you. You're doing everything for them, you're caring for them and nurturing them, and you're neglecting yourself basically, because you're just dropping everything when they call and going to their beck and call at their house or going out when they want to go out. And I was just feeling so not good. Like it just, I don't know how, it was just not good.
I like that you brought up people pleasing because that's a freaking epidemic. People pleasing for sure. And I guess I noticed when I first got in the online dating thing, if someone even showed interest in meeting me, I felt like obligated to meet them, or else I was quote unquote doing something wrong.
Right.
And that went straight into people pleasing.
Mhm.
And when we do that, we're starting whatever relationship, even if it's just a short one, on the wrong foot.
Right.
You give away your energy like that instant.
Yeah. I would say I learned real quick that I had to be discerning about what my first inkling of that person was, how they interacted, messaging and stuff. But that it was okay to not want to pursue that person that I matched with or whatever. But I also realized that dating online was kind of deflating a little bit too, because we're all wanting validation via messaging because you have no other form of communicating. And when they would delete a chat or leave a chat with you, it just felt like I was just like being knocked down a notch. And I realized I had to just say, this is not personal. We weren't connecting, and then be like, okay with that, because it's very different dating online.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. Something that just happened today. I love how the universe works. On my walk, as I had this realization that I don't want to say falling for guys that I've met online, but I think because I came from such a long-term relationship and such a trusting relationship that I was like trusting what these guys were telling me in the online space.
Right.
And then just being like, oh, perfect, this guy wants to like delete his Tinder app because he thinks we're gonna be a match. And like, not even a few days later, they weren't even talking to me. So versus now, like meeting somebody maybe in real life and maybe even in the online space, but where their actions follow what their words are.
Exactly.
It's completely different.
Exactly. And I think, you know, people going through my awakening, I had to do my inner work to work on loving me first. And I think you can kind of tell the ones that don't love themselves. They're needing constant validation, constant communication. They're saying everything you want to hear, which is considered basically love bombing and getting you kind of hooked. And if they can hook you, but then they're not ready for a relationship either because they haven't done that work. So that's the hard part, is learning what is best for me and when do I cut this off, and try to discern through that, because everybody has something they can work on, I think. So
Right, so, meeting someone. So what I'm hearing is that you're very observant now and very conscious about the behavior of the other people from the get-go.
right.
And you see the love bombs. So can you explain to the audience, like, what is love bombing?
I would say that it's, like the really like sharing, oh, I'm really liking you too soon, or I'm really into you. And I'm like, we've been talking for maybe a couple of days. And they send pictures a lot of times. They want you to like them physically through pictures. And so if you're getting a ton of pictures, just talking about a life together when you haven't even met in person, it's, I think, technically a form of love bombing, because they're wanting you to fall for them without even meeting them. So they're
Perfect.
trying to sell themselves without you knowing the real person. And so I think that's huge to like be able to chime in on. And also I've learned we can't normalize red flags. So if they're red flags for us, they might not be red flags for everybody. But if it is for you, do not ignore that. Like, that's the first thing I've had to be like, oh, that's a red flag. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not gonna sacrifice what I want from my soul. Like, that's just not gonna happen.
Right, otherwise it's a form of self-sabotage.
Right.
Or it's a lesson that's gonna reoccur, because it's gonna come back around.
Right. Or you're gonna be stuck in a bad relationship. So I think using your discernment early on and picking up those red flags and the love bombing and things that aren't okay that you've already experienced in life and you've grown from, and not accepting that as the best you can get. And I think that just choosing you ultimately is like where to start. But like, it is good to pick up on those things, and you don't have to feel like obligated to somebody. Just because you've talked for 2 weeks doesn't mean you have to keep doing that. It's a choice, and not that they're a bad person either. Like, you don't even have to say anything towards that person. This just isn't working for me. This isn't making me feel good every day.
I love that you said that, because where I come from, I think a lot of spiritual folks come from, is that everyone is exactly okay with where they're at on their journey. But like what you're saying, it doesn't mean it has to be part of my journey.
Right.
Yeah. So it's non-judgment, which I think makes you a conscious spiritual woman, because you're aware of this person's behavior. Maybe, the more intuitive we get to, then you could like really pick up on,
Right.
oh, they had some freaking trauma.
Yeah.
They got some trauma. And that's okay. They were meant to grow through that experience for them.
Right.
And I love how you said, even if you're talking to them for a couple weeks or a couple months, or like I was in a over 20-year relationship, even years into that, you have to question.
Right.
You have to peek up and be like, is this still healthy? Are we still both growing?
Right.
And if not, it's okay to leave a relationship. There's another podcast episode that I've done in the past for you guys that are listening to. And it was called Conscious Uncoupling. So if you guys want to look back on the podcast episodes, I had a beautiful woman on, and she was talking about when you become aware that it's not a healthy relationship, and the steps to unconscious or consciously rather uncouple.
Right.
So that's something.
And I
to
think
say
that that's fair to the other person too. So I have learned to not be so self-absorbed in what am I wanting or needing or pursuing, and being aware of what is good for them too. Like if I'm not loving them the right way, that's not fair either, you know? If it's, you know, so selfishly, we have to be unselfish sometimes and let people go if we're not feeling something or if it's not healthy. And it's not the easiest thing to do, but it's the right thing to do.
That's right. Because if, you know, you stay in a relationship and you know that the other person is not receiving either, then you're holding them back from growth that they can have or their joy.
Or meeting the person that will fill them up in the way that they need. Because we're all on totally different journeys. Not everybody's on the same one, but we meet for a reason, I think. And so, like, I try to take each person that I interact with, and I'm like, well, what did I learn from that? Like, how did I grow from that? Maybe it hurt my feelings, or I felt rejected when they left that chat, but what did I learn? I learned I don't like this, or I don't like that, or that wasn't a connection that I was interested in. So we have to take the positive from all the experiences.
Absolutely. And when you do, you know, ask yourself those valuable questions, what did I learn from this? Then the next to go around, you're going to, like, I always call it like the spiritual hovercraft, right? You're just going to cruise right over that red flag, or you're just, it's not going to bring up because you've healed something
It's a
within
lesson
yourself.
learned,
Yeah.
basically. So we're like, okay, no, been there, done that.
Yeah. So I want to go back to a little bit about the love bombing, because there's something physical and emotional and a chemical reaction that happens with us. Especially I want to say women, right? Because we're more an emotional being. One of our friends, Celia, taught me about our limbic system, and it's a piece of your brain, and women's limbic system is much larger than men.
Mhm.
And when we get these love bombs, our limbic system just like lights up. And some of these red flags can just be flying right over you.
Yeah.
Because you did get love bombed. So it's so important to, like, I want to say we all want to have our, you know, hands out or arms linked. It is important for us to be vulnerable, but it's also important for us to take a step back after that love bombing and be like, what just happened?
Exactly.
Was that actually really real? Or was I just having a feeling that lit up all these receptors in my brain, and gave me all this serotonin boost? And I want to feel that feeling again. And so I'm going to overlook these things.
I just went through that with the guy online. And we've been talking for almost 2 months. And it was great. We were talking about, like, when can we meet? Like, you know, I'm a flight attendant, so I was like, oh, I overnight there, so maybe we could grab dinner. I could actually meet him in person. It was so great. But then I kind of picked up on the love bombing, and then maybe I kind of pulled my energy back a little bit, and then he was gone. Just quiet, gone. And I was like, I sat there and I said, what the heck just happened? Like, I literally just got love bombed and he's gone. Like,
yeah, that happened to me. When I went out with this, like, firefighter guy, and we had the best day. We had an amazing kiss at the end of the day. And the next weekend I was going camping with my friends. And so he texted saying, as soon as you come back from camping, I'm going to plan this most amazing adventure for us. Our kisses were amazing, like all the things. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this guy's going to, like, really take me on an adventure, a real another date.
right.
And he was smoking hot too. But I came back from camping and I was like, because he said he was going to think about this adventure over the weekend. So I came back and that was my first question, is like, what about this adventure? I'm so excited. He's like, oh, well, that's probably not going to happen anytime soon because work. And even though he was retired, he's like wanted to get a new job or something, and that would just get in his way. And I was like, I never said anything back to him, because if they're not into you, they're not into you.
Well, and I think what happens with love bombing is that you're in it and you're giving them stuff back until I realized what was kind of happening, and I probably didn't do that as much. They were getting validation and their ego was being boosted, and then they got the confidence to go pursue other things, is the way I perceive it, because they were needing a little bit of a boost, you know, and so they find that woman that they maybe are attracted to, but maybe it's not possible to connect. Like, I didn't live near him, but he still got the boost that he needed, that confidence again, maybe to go date locally where he lived, and not be online. So, I mean, I did learn something from that. Like, I learned a lot, actually. So now I'm like, okay, well, I am not going to be filling up everybody's tank all the time. So now I fill up my own tank, and it's very rewarding, and I can just be happy all the time and not needing that validation from dating or whatever. But I'm going to be in a good space to meet somebody when the time is right.
So how do you fill up your own cup?
Oh, I just, just thinking into just taking care of my body, working out better, eating better, a lot due to you educating me on stuff, which I'm totally grateful for. But just, making me number one and not everybody else. Cause I really do care about everybody. So it's hard to like kind of stop that sometimes and focus on me.
Yeah, I like that you said that, focusing on you more. Another realization I had today, but based on what you just said, focusing on you more, is that, some of the beginnings of like my online dating, I was going for that validation, especially, because I lost my husband. And then I'm just like, I just want to be loved, because I lost like the truest love of my life.
Yeah, you want to feel pretty, you want to feel noticed, you want to feel, desired.
yes.
And that's just human nature,
Human
but
nature.
we can give that to ourselves.
Yep.
And then those people won't be attracted to us because we're not going to overgive to them, because we're not that needy energy, I guess.
Yeah.
And so I figured out there's a total shift when you do that.
Yeah. So that's what I realized today when my cute little crossing guard was asking if I was still seeing the same guy. And I'm like, yes, I am. Believe it or not. Like, I'm not, she's like, you haven't swiped left yet. And I'm like, believe it or not, I am. And this person's actions, like I was saying, follow their words, right? Their behaviors follow their words. But the realization that I had was, again, those online people were not, but the reason why I was there was to get that validation. And then I kind of got like tired of it, because it's exhausting.
Right, because if you're not feeding their needing that conversation, you're not getting your validation
Either.
and then they just disappear.
They literally disappeared. Like, I was to the point where I'm like, am I intimidating? But then again, actually, I think I am. Or was.
You're
to those
probably
type of people.
calling it like it is.
Yeah.
And you're saying exactly what you're feeling and what you're wanting and what you're needing from this connection. And that's
Scary.
gonna make them run.
That's scary as shit for these guys, when you're just like, here I am, like this confident woman, an individual doing things for myself, you know what I mean? And they're just like,
damsel in distress.
they're like, oh shit, she doesn't like need me. And so bye, that's crazy. I did want to bring up, because we were talking before we started recording about at least my experience, and then have Shannon's take on that or feedback, is that I was in such a long relationship, a monogamous relationship, and I was raised in a monogamous mindset. So when I first started dating, and I don't even know if you want to call it dating, what the hell is it called anymore? But I had to grow through this weird mindset shift of, I felt like I was like a whore at first, because I was like having sex with multiple people, and not necessarily calling myself like a swinger or whatever names those are, but I was like exploring. And then I had to come to terms and be okay with myself doing that. And being okay with learning the lessons of what that is, or just exploring this different personalities of different people, because one guy will talk to you about one thing, and another guy maybe wants to cuddle, and another guy wants to maybe talk spirituality or business with you, or one guy smacks you on the ass, you know what I mean? Like, you're just getting so many different things from these different people. And I found that to be super interesting, and being okay with myself having multiple sex partners and having multiple men, talking to multiple men. And what was your take on that?
So I would say, because I mean, I grew up in a life where my grandparents were married for 63 years. Like, that was what you did. And that just hasn't been the way my life has played out, unfortunately. Or fortunately, maybe that's not what my path is. And so I've learned that I don't have to meet a guy and be in a full-blown relationship right away. Like, I don't have to just be with one person and be like, okay, this is the guy I met, so this is the guy I have to date. And that's what I was doing. So since this awakening, I've just learned I'm going to go out in my day and I'm going to see what happens, see who I meet. If I meet people online, great. If I don't, if I meet people out in public, great. And I'm going to see what that experience is like. I'm not going to just be like, okay, yeah, we're boyfriend and girlfriend. Like, I want to know that we can meet all the levels of the relationship that we need. And you had the husband that did that. So like, now you're going to have to experience different people and try to go through those experiences to find someone that kind of is the equivalent or better than what you already had, which is like, I'm glad you had that, because most people don't get that in life. And so I think that once you kind of are dating, even you're going, ooh, I didn't like how that made me feel. I did not feel good about that. And then you go, okay, I'm not going to, like you said, we just kind of hover over that next time. But it's all learning. It's all growing and being like, but you're not a bad person for dating.
Right. And, I have to say too, like, the people that, I have been, I guess, dating, a lot of them are a lot different than my husband was. Absolutely. I was like, okay, I was with this type of person for this long, and God love it. The best, sweetest person in the whole world, right? I mean, the love of my life. But, and I'm grateful. Like, I'm so grateful I had that experience. It doesn't mean I won't have it again, but it also means, to me, I feel so grateful for that I just want to kind of have fun too.
Right.
But there was a point I was gonna say. I forgot what I was gonna say. But yeah, just experiencing these different things. So that's what I was gonna say, is that you guys all know I have the Manifest Your Lover class. And I also do like the Manifest Your Lover readings and stuff sometimes. But like in the Manifest Your Lover class, I have like write down like all these qualities and stuff of what you want. And I did that in the very beginning, and it's very interesting how many men come through that have like completely opposite qualities of that, or I mean, they have some, but are completely different. So like a certain height or a certain this, and then I'm like manifesting people that are not that. But in the experience, I'm like, well, gosh, maybe I'll loosen this up a little bit, because just because that person didn't check these boxes, they're a different flavor. I always like to say that we all have a different flavor. They're just a different flavor from that checkbox that maybe you have. And I think it's important to even date somebody that you think you wouldn't date, maybe because you've never been in that corner of the playground, so to say,
Yeah, like we don't know what we don't like unless we experience it. So I think that honestly, you have to date, but even if they're not meeting all the boxes, you're still learning from those. And then you can be like, okay, this served its purpose. It's time to move on from that. And then you move into a different direction. But like you probably going through all the stuff the last year and a half, you've grown into a whole different person too than you were with your husband, even probably. So you're attracting totally different people.
Wow, I love that. We talked about that the other day when I was like, oh my gosh, you got to be on the podcast, because our conversation was so deep and so real that I was like, yes, I wish we could have recorded that minute, but yeah, you're right, because I was talking about how much I had changed in a year and a half, I mean, almost like everything from a different,
I met you at the pool. You're a totally different person, like so energetic and just glowing all the time and inspiration. Like you're inspiring everybody every time you go somewhere. So I think you've grown like exponentially since I got here.
yeah. And it all comes from the dark spot, all the light comes from the darkness, it really does. But like for me having a completely different body, my health is so much better. I have a different house, a different car.
Yeah.
I have different life experiences, and when we were talking the other day, I thought it was a lot of avoidance and a lot of grief, and Shannon reminded me, and I super appreciate that it's like, no, you are a different person because you grew over this year and a half. You didn't just change into this person so that you could avoid the grief or the pain. You changed in this person because of the grief and the pain.
You went into it and just embraced it. And
Yeah.
we're in the dark because that's the only way to feel it. You have to feel it to heal it. That's what I learned. And it just literally resonated with me. I'm like, this feels terrible, but I'm going to sit here and feel terrible. And I'm going to figure out why. And it goes very deep to childhood and, past relationships. And I've healed those things where I don't want those anymore. Like, I don't want that life.
Yeah, and the spiritual, the awakening part is becoming self-aware, wouldn't you say? And then, and sitting in your emotion and questioning. So it's being self-aware, feeling your feelings, and then questioning them, and then sitting with it to see what comes up.
And then, seeing what you learned from it.
Emotional intelligence. And that's one thing that is on my manifestation of manifesting a man list, our relationship, is for them to be emotionally intelligent. And I don't want to say it's few and far between, but it is because men were taught not to feel their emotions.
Well, and we're in some, difficult times in life right now, and that's affecting a lot of people in ways that we could have never imagined. That's the way I kind of perceive it. I mean, in my work, it's totally, I'm like, what is happening? Like, I'm super aware, and there's people that are not even in their own mind sometimes, I don't think. So it's like, if I can touch one person or 5 people a day and just give them one little thing to shift their perception, that's kind of a good thing, I think.
Yeah. So you were saying, because at the time we're recording this podcast, Mercury retrograde is here, and she was saying that all her these old boyfriends are texting her. What were you saying about that?
Oh, it's they're coming out of the woodwork. Like I just don't respond because they're toxic. Basically, and I'm getting the I love you, I miss you, give me a chance again. I'm like, oh no. Like, it is so refreshing and freeing to say no and not even want to even respond. Like, that is got to be the best feeling I've ever felt. Like, honestly, I've been sitting with that a couple days. I'm like, I don't even want to talk to them. It is so awesome. So I don't know. But it's a lot of hard work.
And so she was saying earlier too, of why she doesn't respond, because they're a narcissist, and what happens when we respond to a narcissist?
We crack the door again, and they get their fix. Basically, they get their exactly what they want. If you respond, they won, and you lose.
Yeah,
because then you're just kind of going into that cycle, and I don't want to repeat the cycle.
she's like, I'm done.
Done with that cycle.
So, wow, awesome. Let's see, do you have some tips for the listeners on either, how to maybe recognize a red flag, or or what a new healthy relationship might look like?
I mean, the guys that come out super, oh yeah, I want to have this life with you. And, if they're a little too ambitious in that way, I think that is a red flag. They're trying to sell themselves very quickly. If someone is patient with you and they're not getting angry because you can't respond right away, or you don't respond right away, I think that's a good sign. If they're getting kind of angry because you're not responding, I think that's a total red flag. Talking about other women while you're on a date with them is a total red flag.
Just a tiny.
Yeah, that's not a real good pick me up.
I think if they like you said, like talk highly about themselves, and this is an intuitive thing too,
Yeah.
right? I mean, we're talking about dating, but this is with any relationship. If you're just sit there and consciously aware of their behavior, you're gonna see the words they use, even in a text. Even if it's just a text, you will see the word they use. And if they're saying they have lots of money, if they're saying that how amazing they are or whatever, they're usually broke.
Yeah. They're broke, they're wanting you to fix them and save them.
Yes. And you guys, you know what? We're not here to save anybody. And you know what? Nobody is going to save you. So that's the thing too, is I don't know who it was asking me about twin flames. Was it you? Soulmates, twin flames, your girl Brandaleen doesn't jump on that bandwagon. I don't. There is not someone out there that is going to fill a piece of you, that is going to fill something that's broken with you. There absolutely is not.
Yeah.
Are there people out there that some people can have such a strong connection with, that I've known some of my students and people that were able to like close their eyes and actually like transport to be where that other soulmate or whatever they want to call them, that I'm using air quotes, by the way, or their twin flame, and they can actually feel the feeling of that person and see through that person's eyes. I mean, some of this stuff is amazing, but I still don't believe in my heart of hearts that you need to be out there seeking some piece of you that's not whole. You are whole, and no one is going to save you though except for yourself.
Right. And I think that, the twin flame stuff is interesting because narcissists can actually take on the form of making you believe they're twin flame, because they mold to whatever you're wanting, and they'll be whatever you want them to be, in a sense. So they kind of are like hard to pick out sometimes. Like they could have a really great heart, but they have these really bad tendencies that they grew up with their whole life that they don't even recognize. So that can be a little confusing, I think. So I don't think that you should be searching for that either.
True. That's true. When you can come into a relationship being a whole, right? And none of us are done with our work. We're never going to be done. But from a conscious standpoint, there's a power couple that I follow, and they talk about how every day they go through and they say, they ask each other questions like, how are you? Are we healthy, wealthy, wiser, or whatever every day? And they support each other's growth. So, I mean, as long as you're consciously evolving yourself,
Mhm.
and then you have this partner that supports that, I think that's where that healthy relationship is for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of realized after all this that every single interaction in a day changes who we are and how we perceive things. So if you think about that, if I'm at work, I'm talking to a lot of people, I'm meeting a lot of people, I'm constantly evolving and being like, hey, that just triggered something I need to think about. So if you do have somebody that's supportive of you becoming your best authentic self, which is I think what we all want to try to strive to be, I think that's what ultimately we're looking for.
I like that. Just today, I texted that one person that I'm seeing right now. And I said, in case you didn't know, I'm always questioning the things, because we were in a texting conversation. And he's like, I totally like that about you. And I support that. Because obviously it's obvious, like something he said to me that made me think something really deep. And I sent this long paragraph, and then I followed it up with by the way, I'm a nerd and I think about everything that you say to me. And he's like, no, I like that. So it's like,
But you got validation in a healthy way,
in a healthy way.
which is very good, because you're not just needing oh, I'm pretty, I'm this. He validated how you talk and think and who you are as a person.
Yeah. And I think being vulnerable to put that out there. Like today, I was like, should I tell this person this is the thoughts I was having? And I'm like, why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I?
And I think if, I felt like in those past relationships, I was constantly thinking about, can I say this? What's he gonna think if I say this? I never want to think, can I say this to somebody? Or I shouldn't say this to him because he's gonna react this way. If I'm thinking like that, that's a red flag.
That's very good. I'm gonna point at you in the camera. That's self-awareness right there. Like if you're thinking that I need to hold back, play small,
Yeah.
or please this person in any way.
Or he's gonna react bad if I say a certain thing, that's not good.
Yeah.
That's not letting me be myself.
Yeah, be your true authentic self. It's scary to be your true authentic self, but you have to be, or else you're gonna kick your own ass.
Right. It's rewarding though. It really is. I've met the coolest people just by being me now.
Yes.
And not trying to meet the standards of what people are looking for. And I think that's what dating is now. It's like everybody's trying to be like somebody. And we, we all want to be like the famous movie stars and stuff, but how is that possible really?
Right.
So it's like, I think if we just get down to being who we are, you just attract the coolest people.
You do. And I've noticed this about you, Shannon, is it's not just a dating relationship, it's all the people around you. Like you just can walk up to people and you're just instantly in like this really great conversation because you're not afraid that they want something from you. You're just saying, here I am. And then they pick up on that energy. And then it's like this nice energy.
And it's like, complimenting somebody. That doesn't mean I like want to date you, but I notice you have nice teeth or I like your outfit today. And so I've learned to just be a nice person, a good human, like just be myself and just, then it does transpire into really cool friendships. And I mean, you never know where those are going to take you in life either. So I'm always looking to meet new people and go on different adventures.
So I have a question for you then. How do you communicate? So say you're saying that you like to go explore and like, you're like, I'm not necessarily saying this is my boyfriend and that now we're in this relationship. Do you communicate that with the other people that you're having explorations with or?
Yeah, like, I mean, currently I'm not with anybody, but, if I find somebody that I want to like explore something with, then if I meet somebody else, I'm absolutely going to be honest. Because if you're not being honest about what you're doing with your life, even though you don't have to answer to anybody, you're taking their choice away of wanting to be involved in that or not. Just the same as a guy. Like, if a guy's dating two women, I want to know, because I want to choose, do I want to be part of that? So, and some people will and some people won't. And I feel like giving people respect in that way is the right, kind of the right way to pursue if you're dating.
I like that. So what would you like literally say? I'm dating
I
other
would
people.
say, you know what, I'm so excited that I met you. I am dating another person or another couple people. I just want you to be aware of that and see if you're okay with that, basically. Give them an option. If they're like, no, hell no, I don't want to be part of another whatever you got going on, or I want more of your time, then they can go find somebody to get more of their time. Or they can say, I would really like to pursue you, and I can decide, do I want to date these other people?
Right.
So it kind of works both ways.
That's true, because they could say, wow, I really like you and I don't necessarily want to share you. How would you feel if?
Can we try exploring this just
further?
And then I can choose, hey, you know what? Are these other things going the way I want them to go? And I can kind of look at that. So I think it opens communication for one, because then you're on that level of, hey, we can talk about anything if we can talk about that.
And respect.
Yeah. And I grew up in a family, respect was number one with my dad. And so I just go through life like that. Like, how would I feel if that person didn't tell me they're dating three women? Like, so yeah. I think I go with it like that.
I like that a lot. Wow. You've been so knowledgeable. Oh. And I love that you came and shared all of this with the audience there.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're loving every word. and taking notes so they could go on their dating experiences. So thank you so much for being on the podcast.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.